I'm blessed.
Yeah, right. So I had everybody here. I said, hey, we're going to have these guys on tomorrow. So make sure that you had some questions. I prepared myself and I got some questions also, along with the questions that we had, some of the questions that we had last time for our last online class that we were in with you, Jake. So,
Do you mind?
but what's
Do you,
that?
do you mind stalling for a bit, like 2 minutes? I just have to feed my dog. Let
No,
me just
hey,
feed.
how is Sal doing?
He's great. I just have to because he's right here, literally begging for food.
Yeah, no worries at all, my friend. No worries at all. Um, yeah, Jake Atlas and I have we have like a father and son relationship. To really be honest with you, Jake doesn't have a father. I don't have a son, so it's kind of a match made in heaven. And yeah, I have a really close relationship with him. I think it just kind of happened out of necessity for both of us, to really be honest with you. And like I was telling you yesterday, very determined, serious about professional wrestling. Hey, what did you do? Just give him some kibble, or what? Did you give him some canned good food?
No, I give him kibble.
Okay,
He
he's on a
gets
diet.
biscuit in the mornings.
Okay, but I was just telling him about how serious Jake Atlas was about when he came to training, and that was something that we talked about. My pro wrestling tips that you've probably heard every single one of them, and one of them was be serious about professional wrestling, and I was telling him about how serious you were. About professional wrestling, when you came into the dojo, you very focused. We always ask everybody, just like I asked each and every one of you, what's your goal? And his goal was, I want to be a WWE Hall of Famer, and serious about it, extremely serious. And I said, man, obviously, what? Like most people come and they say, my goal is to get signed to WWE, and that's when my brain exploded. I said, wow, getting signed to WWE is so easy compared to the Hall of Famer. But I can only imagine one day, hopefully we can see that path is happening, and you are on your way to doing it. So you have your goal, you write your goal down, you're focused on your goal. And what I was just telling, we were in a class with another alumni, and I was telling everybody, you should be enthusiastic, right? I was telling them that Ralph Waldo Emerson said, nothing enthusiastic, nothing great has ever happened without enthusiasm, you know? And you should be enthusiastic that you're here in a class with Jake Atlas. I just got done telling the alumni. I said, when we and my uncle were actually coming up in the pro wrestling business, right? We didn't have a school, we didn't have a coach, right? That was mentoring us and leading us the way, and we didn't have any clue on how to break in this business, right? We were doing indie shows, but how do you go and do what they're doing on television? And so we would always think, well, if we could find an old timer and talk to this old timer, obviously we said an old timer because we didn't think we would have access to somebody that was currently signed to WWE. And the name that always came to my head was George the Animal Steel. And so if I could just find George the Animal Steel, maybe I could talk to him and maybe he'll help me out and give me some tips, because I have no clue on how to break into this business, and I think that it's such a treat that we have Jake Atlas here, and he's not an old timer, but he's somewhere that he's actually wrestling for a place that most of you, right, have on your goal list. And he's there right now. It's not that he was there yesteryear and he's telling you old facts. He can talk to you and help you with that. And I thought that it's always so special to have someone like that in here, because I think, at least in my mind, I was always looking for George the Animal Steel. Never found him, and so just wanted to ask him some questions. So I hope that everybody has some great questions, and not just about WWE, but about the world of professional wrestling, and even training at Santino Brothers, just training in general. So I think it'll be a really, really fun class, even if Brody King doesn't have a chance to make it today. So why don't we? I wanted to maybe give this time to Jake. Maybe talk a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, how old you are, which I think is always key, right? Because I want to know. Hey, I'm 22. How old are you, brother? Like so. Um, I think that would help out. But yeah, I just want to give you the floor right now. Maybe just introduce yourself. Let everybody know in this class. And everybody's been working hard. Just to let you know, Jake, because I know how when you come to class and you're training some of the students, you want to know who are the hard workers and who is putting in the work, who's putting in the effort. Who's enthusiastic about doing this. And everybody here is a hard worker. They've been working on. We just got done the last 3 weeks with doing promos. And it's like night and day from week 1 to week 3 on their progression and how great they were. Just really, and just everything that you were talking about with emotion, making people laugh, making people cry, and really touching their hearts and making people believe with their eyes. And I know everybody here is probably sick of me saying that. Like, come on, coach, you're always talking about the eyes. How was the promo though? So. But yes, Jake, take it away. Let us know who you are, my friend.
Sure. First of all, I'm really lucky and very happy to be on here with you guys. I know Chaos works very hard to get these things going, and just really cool to see you guys all committing to something during all this craziness. So I'm really happy to see the Santino brothers flag still flying high. Obviously, as Chaos mentioned, I'm Jake Atlas. My name is Kenny in real life. And I am trained at a Santino Brothers. I trained there for about maybe 2 years, 2-3 years really, all up until I got signed. And I signed I started in January, but I signed my contract last November. And I've been here for about a year. I am from Los Angeles, born and raised in Los Angeles. I found Santino Brothers on the internet. And I started training. I did private classes at first, and then I integrated into the weekly like beginner, intermediate, advanced classes. I had to do a reset when I broke my neck, and then I had to train again for a year until I made my pro debut in 2016. From 2016 to 2019, I wrestled in California mostly for like the first 2 years, and then really in 2019 really hit my stride. And I traveled to the United Kingdom to wrestle for promotions out there. I wrestled in England and I wrestled in Ireland, and then I wrestled all over the country in the U.S. as well. And then did really well at PWG, and there were scouts and recruits there, and then got offered a contract to come to WWE. And WWE has been a blast. NXT is a phenomenal brand. And I think that right now, being a part of professional wrestling in any way, whether you're at NXT or AEW, is a blessing because there are so many fans right now. I'm a competitive person, and of course, I want to beat AEW every week. But the human in me is always happy to see that there's a high number of people just watching wrestling in general when you combine the both numbers together. But I'm just like you guys. I really loved wrestling growing up. I was brought into it by my parents and then my brother, and I never fell out of it. I would wrestle in the playground. Any chance that I get to think about wrestling, I would. Kind of took a break from it when I did cheerleading and gymnastics in high school and into college, but then realized I don't like school, so I have to be successful at something else. So I gave wrestling a full-time chance, and it worked out for me. So I'm very lucky, and I'm very happy. And I'm a proud Santino Brothers graduate, first Santino brother to make it to WWE. So very happy. It can happen to all of you guys. That's what I was actually just on the call with the alumni as well. I am proud to be the first, but I'm not proud to be the only one. I'm trying to get Vinny Wasco and Hyde to come over here as well, so that I'm not lonely in Florida. But that's pretty much mostly about me. I'm down and ready to answer any questions that you guys may have. I'm 26 years old. I'm Mexican American, and I'm also gay. If anyone has any questions regarding any of that, just saying in case you guys relate to any of that or have any questions regarding that as well.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, I mean, you say you broke your neck. You broke your neck, and you still wanted to come back to professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Right. I was telling this class about how it takes an individual, right? And I don't think any wrestler likes to hear it at first, but when you break it down, I think you understand that it's true. And you say it takes a special kind of crazy stupid to want to be a professional wrestler and even to want to continue after something like breaking your neck. Um,
Oh yeah.
it, right? It is,
Yeah.
right? It's part of that sacrifice, right? Part of the sacrifice in professional wrestling.
Oh, 100%. I knew that right then and there was a decision maker. I knew that if I was only going to commit to it half after I broke my neck, that I probably would have never made it to WWE. I had to almost think like, you didn't break your neck. This is just a reset, and the grind continues. Because that's how bad I wanted it. Like I showed up to Santino Brothers with Robbie Phoenix, and I showed up and I remember the first thing I said to him, I probably said this to Chaos when I first met him too. I said, "Oh, I'm just here so I can work at WWE." And they were both probably like, "Okay, like I don't know how you're going to do that in 2 weeks." But like that, I had no idea what independent wrestling was. I had no idea what any other I just knew TNA and I knew WWE. And I was like, guys, just fast track me. How do I get to WWE? Like, how does this work? Like, do I start tomorrow? Do I start next week? When do I get there? So obviously when I broke my neck, I was like, you need to toughen up and grow some balls, because you came in. It's almost like I wanted to prove to them that I was going to do it. Like I wanted to prove to them that I was going to make it.
So he says he breaks his neck, right? And if you ask Robbie, the trainer, if you ask Robbie will say no. He didn't break his neck in training. He went to the senorita and she put a towel around his neck, and she's actually broke his neck doing that. And the reason I bring this up is because there's always one in a wrestling locker room, maybe more so a lucha libre locker room, where somebody wants to grab a towel and kind of mess with your neck. And I wouldn't recommend it. But I remember, and Jake will deny this, I remember him coming with his broken neck to the dojo, and he had a halo on his head and shoulders. I,
That is
I remember this, Jake. I remember this. You had a halo, and he denies that he didn't have a halo. Did you even come to the dojo with a broken neck? Let's answer this question.
he exaggerates the Halo story. He thinks I had this metal device all on top of my head holding my
Screwed
head.
into your forehead, right?
Yeah, that's what he thinks. But I just had a neck brace like right here so that I wouldn't move.
So he broke his neck, but he was still walking. So it
Yes.
wasn't it wasn't that bad, right? Yeah. Hey, get out. Just rub some dirt on it. You'll be all right. um, but yeah. So I hope everybody has some questions. I have some questions to start it off. If you have a question, we'll open it up in just a little bit. So if you don't have a question written down or now, I'd like you to go ahead and write it. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and Jake and I will just go ahead and carry the conversation here. So let me ask you, and this is maybe I think what's always on maybe a lot of people's mind. Jake Ellis, will I make a lot of money becoming a professional wrestler?
Whew. Um, Not at first. Not at first. Um, and perhaps not for a while, if ever. It's a bet, I think. Chaos, maybe. I would say it's 50-50. I'd bet. I would say yes now, because now I'm in NXT, and I see what the growth is, in money wise and financially. I know what the growth is. So I would, right now I would say yes. But if I was still on the indies, I would say no. And it's difficult to kind of hear a yes and a no, but um, the one thing that always stuck to me that you would always say is like, someone would tell you have to pay for your wrestling hobby, right? And that's essentially what it felt like when I was on the indies. Is I was paying to play, I was paying to play. Um, but I think that once you persevere and once you push through it and you make a name for yourself and you commit more than anything, you sacrifice and you commit to professional wrestling, there's absolutely money to be made now more than ever. And it's just the want being or the need even being greater than like anything else in your body. You've got to want it more than anything in the world. because right now there are people who do want it more than anything in the world, and they're making that money, you know, and there are people who are going to make that money because they're going to do something tomorrow or the day after or next week that's going to set them up for that success. Um, but it's brutal at first, guys. It's brutal. You're getting paid $20 to
If you're
wrestle,
lucky.
if you're lucky, to
Yeah.
wrestle a 5 minute match for years, possibly. You know, you could be driving 9 hours up north to San Francisco, right? Could be just by yourself, could be with somebody. 9 hours up north. It's a 24-hour day almost, I would say. Would you say, Vinny? I would say it's almost a 24-hour day. I'd leave it at 10 a.m., you know, or 9 a.m. and get back from San Francisco at like 6 a.m. and the most I'd make is like 50, $70.
Yeah,
It's a whole well, sorry.
I was just gonna add because I wrestled in NorCal this past weekend. We did the Young Lions Cup. Very great opportunity. I left Wasco at 6:45 in the morning. Drove up there. We started filming, I think, at like 2. We wrestled until about 7 or 8 ish, you know. And I didn't get paid, and I got home at 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? So that's typical. And that was a very big show. And Jake, I don't know if you got paid when you did the Young Lions Cup. Going into it, I wasn't expecting to get paid because there wasn't a crowd. Previous years might have been different, but that's just an example of something that happened to me recently, and I've been wrestling for 2 years now. You know?
Yeah. That's a great example, and I'm glad that Vinny shared that with me, because you'll get a lot of that. And Vinny did it because he knew what that opportunity meant to him, to his career, and to professional wrestling. And he knew going in there that he wasn't going to get paid. So if you're in this and you're trying to, you know, you're getting in this and you're thinking like, I'm just trying to make money. I mean, it's a hard bet, man. And more likely than not, I'm going to tell you that it's not going to come if that's your mentality. You know, if that's your mentality, that's not going to come because because then you're going to sour on all there are going to be more opportunities at first where you're underpaid or not paid at all. And you're going to grow sour on those opportunities. If you're in this just for money, you're going to grow sour on those opportunities and then quit, as opposed to being a part of this because you love professional wrestling and because you want to you want to grow in it, and you want to, you know, learn the business and learn professional wrestling for what it is. The money will come. And that's one thing that has always been told to me as well, is like, if you do what you love, the money will come. That's it, you know. So but that first line is do what you love, you know. And you've got to really love something, like Vinny said, to go and spend 24 hours and go work, is essentially that's what it is, and not get paid.
And I would also like to add, like, I don't know if anyone reads it on Twitter. Everyone says know your worth, this, that, and the other. Here's the thing: when we're new, the promoters do know your worth, and you're like, I know my worth. Yeah, well, they know your worth. You're new. You're
Yeah.
not worth much. You're not worth nothing, really. And I think, like, a lot of the times, you need to just take every opportunity you can get. We hear and we hear the talk about the hot dog and a handshake, right? Man, that you're lucky to get a hot dog and a handshake. There's some promoters that don't give a fuck about you. They don't care. They don't even want to say hi to you or talk to you. They just want you to wrestle, and that's it. They won't even shake your hand or give you a hot dog at the end of the day. So, thinking about stuff like that, I always hear a lot of people talking smack about that, and I understand it. But when we're new, or if we have zero opportunities, we better take everything we can get right now. If we want to get to the next level. I see that Rain has a question. I see Shane has a question. Who else has a question? Just raise your hand so I can put them in order. I got Matt, Hannah. Okay, let's start with Rain. We'll go to Shane, Matt, Hannah, Willie, and then Kristen, and then Max.
Let's see. Rain says here, what experiences in the indies you wish you had before going to WWE? So there are a couple of things that I wish I would have had, but the most important is I wish I would have had a little bit of television experience. And I think now that's a little bit easier to attain. There's definitely promotions in California that produce television that Chaos is actually a part of. And then obviously there are other promotions like Impact Wrestling or even promotions like AEW, but on a smaller scale, like AEW Dark, or Ring of Honor, like just any sort of television experience. That's like the one thing that I wish I would have had. Thankfully, and I'm not putting myself over like tooting my own horn. Thankfully, I've picked it up with flying colors, as I'm doing it now at NXT. But I'm literally learning as I go. I'm learning. Just yesterday, we lost a minute off our match. It was a 7-minute segment, and then we had to do it in 6 minutes. So it's learning how to adjust all of that, learning how to start timing. From the minute my entrance happens to the minute the last bell rings, because everything is timed from entrance to the end of the segment. It's not bell to bell. It's your entrance, the match, and then if there's aftermath, that's included in the time. So oftentimes you'll get like a 7-minute segment. At least this is what happened with me. This is what's currently happening with me, being in the cruiserweight division. Is we're getting like these 7-minute segments, and we have to not only have a match, but then establish some sort of story, whether that's at the end or before. So like, I'll give an example of last week. Last week, I believe I had I believe it was a 7 or 8 minute, no, but I want to say it was 7-minute segment. It was me and Tony Nese, 7-minute segment. And then I had, and it was so there's a thing called a crossover from 8 o'clock to 9 p.m. And there's got to be something exciting in that crossover from 8 to 9, because that's essentially when people are flipping the channel, right? And so at 9 p.m., it's like, people are seeing what's on, right? Because it's at the top of the hour. And so you want to have something exciting. So my segment was before the segment that will be in the crossover. So I had to make sure that mine was on the dot, so that, whatever the match was that was in the segment, which I believe was like a Pat McAfee match or something. Because obviously, you'd want to see Pat McAfee when you turn on that's who would have been the draw in that. So I knew my role, and I knew that my segment had to end in time, so that the important crossover segment, not that mine wasn't important, but you guys know what I'm saying, the important crossover segment would be on TV from 8 to 9. And then so it was something where like I didn't get an entrance and Tony got like a half entrance, or either Tony didn't get an entrance and I got a half entrance. And so the time starts there, and then we have to have our match, and then I had to cut a promo. So when I'm calling my match, right, with Tony Nese, we have to take that into account. We need the time cues, like, oh, you have 2 minutes left. Well, that 2 minutes left doesn't mean 2 minutes until the 1, 2, 3. That 2 minutes means until the end of my promo. That's allotted into the time. So that's a long answer for a very, I wish I would have done more television. Again, I'm not tooting my own horn, and I'm not putting myself over. I would say I'm passing it with flying colors. I've gotten praised lately by Road Dogg and Hunter for finishing my segments right when I need to finish them. But I just wish but I'm nervous as I'm doing it. I wish I would have had the confidence by doing it before I got here, television-wise.
Thank you. I have on my list here, let me just make sure I have everybody that's going to ask a question. I have Shane, Matt, Hannah, Willie, Max, Kristen. Anybody else? Taylor, Tino, Sage, Alfredo, and I think that's it. Okay. All right. Shane, ask your question, my friend.
Hi, Jake. I think I actually saw you at OTT in Dublin for a match a couple of years ago. So I'm really
that's incredible.
Yeah, no, I saw you. I saw you online. I wasn't actually there because I'm.
Gotcha.
But fair play, man. A really good match. I can't remember who you worked, but I'm a big fan. Listen, I never knew that you had actually broken your neck. So I've dislocated my arm twice wrestling, and I've got like 2 questions. One question is, how do you train around an injury? And secondly, I read like Daniel Bryan's book, and he stated that Nigel McGuinness was supposed to go to WWE, and he was a bit honest with his injuries, and they told him they wouldn't take him unless he got it fixed. So what was the process like in regards to like your medical side of things?
Sure. So the first part, as far as training was concerned, so my recovery process when I injured my neck, I had to be like almost bedridden. I couldn't do anything active. I couldn't even run, and I had to even limit my walking. Any sudden movement or anything in my neck, I had to wear the neck brace for 6 months. I had to sleep with it. I could not jerk at all, because it wasn't like nothing was displaced. It was just a hairline fracture. But if any of those little bones or any of the little cracks would have slipped into my spine, it could have been something bigger. So all I needed to do was just not move. So for 6 months, that's what I did. So basically what it was when coming back from that, I had to wait until those 6 months were done. So there was no rehab or anything that I did. And also I was poor and didn't have insurance at the time, so I didn't go to like physical therapy or anything like that. What I did do was I just waited the 6 months, and once the 6 months were clear, I like went to go get an X-ray, just to see if it was like healed for the most part, and they were like, yeah, it seems like you're pretty good to go. I never mentioned to them that I was a wrestler, because obviously they would have told me never do wrestling again. And then so I waited the 6 months. After that, I showed up to Santino Brothers, and I started the course from zero. I think I already had 6 months under my belt, maybe. I had 6 months before I broke it, and then I got back and I started from scratch, because I needed to relearn everything and not be afraid. I needed to relearn taking a bump. I needed to relearn how to run the ropes and not be afraid of the risk, not be afraid of it happening again, or not be afraid. Like it was more so for getting over the fear of that, and being very particular in my movements, and knowing, okay, if I bump, do I feel okay? Good, that felt good. And knowing that if anything felt weird or if anything felt off, that I wouldn't retry that, or I wouldn't do that again until it would feel stronger, or it would or I would feel more comfortable rather. I definitely encourage like PT work now, for it, but honestly, it's for someone like, have you done wrestling training before at all or anything?
Yeah, I'm wrestling about 3 years on and off, and I'm actually a nurse myself, so I know I shouldn't be doing it. But like I've got to the stage where I'm throwing my clotheslines with my left side as opposed to my right side, so it doesn't dislocate, and back elbows then on this side.
Yeah, and that is a great. You're absolutely right. Like that is a great way. I know a lot of guys here have had to change the way they do things so that their vulnerability is not there. Someone like a Sami Zayn has definitely changed certain things that he's done so that he doesn't do. You know what I mean? As far as the medical process, and I'm going to be 100% transparent with you and be honest, is that I actually took it upon myself to get x-rays done and look at my neck. When I got offered my contract and was told that I was going to do medicals, I took care of that first. And on my own went to go get an x-ray done, went to go get an MRI done to make sure that my neck was fine. And actually, the results came back that there was no trace of any break, which is insane, as if it never happened. So I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So I didn't tell WWE. And to this day, WWE doesn't know about it. And I know a lot of guys that have definitely said that, and definitely don't go on the internet and say Jake Atlas broke his neck or whatever. I'm sure if they look it up, they'll find it, because I've talked about it in interviews. And I actually told Stephanie herself, but they probably forgot, and we're just gonna run with that story that I never broke it. But yeah, it's being mindful of your body, and obviously you know it best. And health is a priority, so you got to make sure that you're 100% before you commit to something, right?
That's great. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Shane. Matt, you're next, my friend.
Hello. My question is NXT, when you get there, do they want or expect you to have ideas to give them? And if so, what is the process like when you pitch ideas to them there?
They definitely do expect you to bring your own creativity. Obviously, the more you're involved in your own creative process, the better your development will be and the better off you'll be. All of the top guys that you see on TV, even someone like John Cena, you know, he had a complete input into who John Cena was, right? Because at the end of the day, he knows who John Cena is. Like before the character, he knows who John Cena, the guy, is. And so that will in turn translate into John Cena, the character. So absolutely, I think you're 100% encouraged to come in with some sort of idea on who you want to be, who you think you should be, and how you can get there. Will it happen? I don't know. It's 50%. I've had the opportunity to continue to be Jake Atlas, and it's a process where we're both on the creative side and myself working on what that really means. What does Jake Atlas mean? And you know, sometimes that develops over time. You know, it develops in years or it develops in months. Sometimes it just happens by being put in a story or what have you. But you're definitely encouraged to be yourself. You want to be yourself. You know, we're in a reality era, I think, where people relate to the human beings inside us. And they want to see personal conflict be resolved. And our way of resolving things in our industry is in a wrestling ring. Yeah, I hope that was good, or that answered your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Hannah, you have a question.
Hello. I want to say that like my main question is, what's some of the best advice you've gotten from like anyone backstage at NXT?
Okay. So this is I got this from Shawn Michaels yesterday, and it's really hit home with me. I'll give you two. One that I just remembered that is the all-time, but I'll give you the most fresh one, and they're both kind of one and the same. I wrestled Swerve yesterday on NXT, and we were meant to have, you know, an action-packed match, but you know, at the core of it, they wanted some emotion out of us, and they wanted to tell this story that I'm really happy I got my second win in a row, and that he was disappointed he lost, but we're both good guys. So we tried, you know, we conveyed the message as it came across on TV, whatever that was. Came to the back, and Shawn came over to talk to us and was kind of just telling us to really feel those reactions. So if it's written on the paper and it says Jake Atlas reacts happy, don't just read the paper and act happy. What is Jake Atlas to our audience, and what makes him connect to them? There's something about Swerve that will connect with certain people. He's African American, he's black, you know, he wrestled on the indies for years, you know, he was in the military, you know, he has a mom and a dad, what have you, right? What is it about Jake that's different than Swerve? So he named all my traits. At the end of the day, there are people that are going to look to us for inspiration, no matter what it is, whether it's one person, 5, hundreds, or millions. There's going to be people that look at us and relate to one or the other. But we have the power of showing them how they would feel in this situation. Does that make sense? Like the human in us is in the wrestling ring and trying to win this match. So I thought that was very helpful on Shawn's end. The second thing, and this was more of a long-term thing. When I get to NXT or when I got to WWE, every time I'm doing a show, I make it a point to introduce myself to everybody. So I encourage you guys to do the same at even indie shows. Say hi to the photographers, say hi to the people that are recording, say hi to everybody. They go into what's making the show. You know what I mean? So I said hi to Stewie, is one of the photographers. He's been doing photography for WWE for 30 years. So he's seen, and the same spot not photography, videography. He's been a cameraman for WWE for 30 years in the same spot. If you're coming down the ramp, if you're coming down the ramp facing the ring, he's to your left. That's been his spot for 30 years. So he has seen Hulk Hogan. He has seen Ultimate Warrior. He has seen Randy Orton. He has seen John Cena, The Rock, Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon, everyone walk down that aisle and become a superstar, right? So I went up to him and I asked him, what was it about these people that you saw? What was it that made them these phenomenal superstars? And he says to me, there was something within their soul that made them likable to the entire global, there was something within their soul that made them likable. There was something within them that made you like them. And that, to me, it sounds so corny and so easy, but could you imagine getting people to like you is so hard, right? It's so easy for people to hate. That's what we see nowadays. So easy for people to pick on something that they hate. Imagine that, just having something within you that's likable, something in your soul, that struck a chord with me. And to this day, I try to figure out every day, is it me being a good person? What is it about me that makes me likable to everybody that I meet? Because then that will just resonate to the people watching. Because if someone's watching and they see right through you and they're like, man, I really like that guy. How powerful is that? You make more money, you get more merch, you get more opportunities. So yeah, just be, what is it about you? What's the one thing about you that can make you likable? As a person, I'm not even saying character, as a person,
Thank you so much.
Jake, about your neck, they were asking, Sage asked, did you break it in wrestling?
I broke it in the wrestling ring, but it was not doing a wrestling move. I was trying to do a corkscrew moonsault because I saw, and if Brody was here, he would tell the story because he loves picking on me and he loves telling the story. But yes, there was like a 16-year-old kid. His name was Ethan, I remember. I don't know if you remember Chaos, but his name was Ethan, scrawny little 16-year-old kid. And flips for him were effortless, and he wasn't even a gymnast. He could do anything. He could jump to the top rope and twist 3 times and land on his feet. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I was a cheerleader. So then he did
was this the guy that danced for Beyonce?
No, this was not.
That was another burn. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So then he goes. So then he's trying a corkscrew moonsault on the crash pad, and he lands it. And Brody was like, "Oh, can you do that, Jake? Bet you can't do that, Jake." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna do that. Like, I'm gonna do it." I go to do it, and I land right on the top of my head. Yeah, I was out. So don't if you can't do it, don't try it. But it was a silly mistake. But no, it wasn't doing wrestling. And I guess that's what made the transition to getting back into wrestling a little bit easier, was that I wasn't afraid of the actual wrestling. I knew that I had done something stupid. And so
wouldn't you consider that's wrestling? Wasco, can you speak on that? That's wrestling, right?
I mean, if you're practicing a corkscrew move,
yeah,
that's wrestling.
Look at him trying to deny it, like he's denying the halo.
Yeah, I think in his mind he's like, no, I wasn't doing any spots or bumps. It was just me practicing moves, so it wasn't wrestling.
I'm not trying to scare these guys or discourage them from training in the ring.
I scared the shit out of him yesterday, man. I told him my story, so not mine, but what happened at the dojo. So. I told him it's dangerous. That's why you have to take it serious.
Yeah.
Willie is up next. Willie's got a question. Willie, then Max. Willie first.
Yes, good evening, guys. So what I wanted to ask is, I mean, obviously you've made it to where we're all trying to get to. I just started training recently, a couple months in doing this. If you could go back to your first training, first few months in it, getting everything ready and getting everything set, what would you give advice to yourself or like to someone like me? And then how has like balancing your life between training, gym, personal life, all that, how's that changed, balancing between then and then now that you are at that level?
Right. Okay, so if there's one thing that I would tell myself if I'm first starting off, so if Jake Atlas, right, if Jake Atlas now would tell Jake Atlas in your position, someone who's 4 months into training and just getting into the business, there's one thing that I would tell myself is to just be in the moment. Just be like, don't be in the moment of everything that you're doing. You know, like the technique, obviously 100%, but that's already going to happen. You're already going to pick up the technique, especially if you train at a school. I know we don't have classes now, and I'm not sure where you're training, but like if you're training at Santino Brothers, I already know that the technique is going to happen. So like if I'm telling someone like Vinny, who started after me, I would tell him just believe in what you're doing. But like have when you're selling, don't just sell. React to what's going on. That's one thing that I was actually talking to Regal yesterday. He says he actually hates the word selling. He hates it. He says now it's become like acting. People now hear the word selling and they act. They don't react. And so he likes to just say react. Just react. Just be in the moment. Be in the moment of what you are doing. If someone is putting heat on you, right? Or if someone is beating you down, well, in real life, what would happen? Be in the moment. What would you do? Would you fight back? Would you swing? Would you take the hit and then get angry, and then fight back? Like, what would you do? You know? Because Jake Atlas now, though I have some advantages, and I've obviously gone through the course and I've wrestled a few bunch, and I know how to turn it on, turn it off. It's definitely become hard to be in the moment, try to be in the character, try to be, and then, you know, face a certain way so the camera catches my facial expression. Like if it would have just been second nature, it would have happened. You know what I mean? Someone that I would encourage you to watch that's current, especially on our brand, someone that I watch on our brand, and I just wrestled him, is Cameron Grimes. He's very good at being in the moment. And a lot of the things that you might say, oh, he's good at selling, but when I watch him, he's just good at reacting. He's just good at reacting to what's going on. He had a really great match with Ciampa last night, and that's one I encourage you guys watch. He's really good at reacting. So I would say that just be in the moment of what you're doing. Just be in the moment. Obviously, pay attention to the technique, pay attention to your footwork, pay attention to the foundation, like your basics. Your basics have to be strong before anything else. But that's going to come. Everyone's going to tell you that. Chaos will tell you that. But something that would benefit you here, or that I would tell myself to benefit myself here, is just be in the moment. As far as like what has changed since between then and now, I mean, now I've learned how to switch off, you know, work is work and my life is my life. Like when I refer to WWE and training and NXT, I've even gotten into the habit of saying that's work. I'll be like, oh, I have work today. Like when I have on TV days, I say, I have work on it. Like that's work to me now. And now I know that on Thursday, if I don't have anything, or like once I'm off work, like that's my life. That's my thing. And I allot myself time in my own home, you know, whether that's practicing promos, going over monologues with my acting coach. And I allot myself that time where it's like, okay, from 6 to 7, you know, you're going to do this, and then turn it off, go do something else, go feed your soul, go feed your who you are, because that's going to help you in the end. If you're frustrated in your personal life, that's going to shine through and it's going to affect you in your wrestling. You know what I mean? Then it's difficult to compare the two also, because there's also a financial factor to it, you know. And then when I was 4 months in or whatever, I'm also stressing about money. I'm stressing about how I'm going to pay my bills. I'm stressed about, especially in this era, you know, I'm stressing about freaking, is there going to be a job? Am I able to work? Am I able to work out? Like there's so many more stresses now. But yeah, I was stressed then. And then it's like, oh, well, I have to go to the dojo and be there 6-8 hours. Like, so money obviously changes things, because now I'm not worried about that. But it's doable. It's prioritizing. It's having priorities and knowing how to get it all in check. You know, not sure if that helped at all or if that answered your question. No problem.
Jake Atlas, we got Brody King has just entered the room.
Oh, thank God. Where is he?
Oh, thank God. You were carrying the whole conversation, my friend. Yeah, that was the first question, Brody.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm just playing.
Oh,
Good. Hey, good having you, Brody. I wanted to first just actually make a comment and say, man, is this corporate Brody we have here? You have like
well,
a button down.
so
Okay, it's a
I
polo.
thought I was supposed to do a promo today for my final battle match with Roosh, but then it just ended up being a regular pro wrestling promo. So I actually had to take this shirt off for the promo.
Oh man, hey,
Brody, we had just I had just you missed the story of how I broke my neck that you love to tell about the 16-year-old kid that was doing the corkscrew. But don't worry, you don't have to retell it. We already told you, so you don't have to.
but let's I gave some time to Jake to introduce himself. Let me tell everybody a little bit about Brody King. Brody King, probably I don't know if I had my hand in training many 6'5" wrestlers. I think when he came in, it was about 260, and I think it was maybe a sloppy 260. Would you agree, Brody?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a sloppy 260. This guy came in and had an incredible work ethic. And we talked about leadership, right? And getting that leadership role yesterday. And Brody is really, really good at becoming a leader. He doesn't go in there and say, I want to be the leader. He is just a locker room leader, whether he knows it or not. And he is within his work ethic and everything that he does. Everything that me and Brody have been in together hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows and roses. Like there'd be times he'd be pissed at me. I would say, Brody, you're moving your feet too much and you're walking around aimlessly. And then he would just stand there and say, Brody, now you're just standing in the corner. What the fuck you want me to do? He would yell at me. And I would be like, I don't know, but not that. So, but yeah, he just has an incredible work ethic. And I just want to give you this time to maybe introduce yourself to everybody here and just to let you know, everybody here, we've been working hard and they've been putting in the work on the promos for the last 3 weeks. And really night and day on their promos, from needing a lot of work to really getting the job done. And it's just a work ethic. So everybody here has been putting in the work, at least on the online class. But yeah, I want to give you this time to maybe just introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are and what you're all about, my friend.
My name is Brody King. I trained at Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy. I started wrestling in 2014. I made my pro debut in July of 2015. I've worked for every independent wrestling company there, that has a big name to it: GCW, PWG, Defy, AAW. If you name it, I probably worked there. I also worked for New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor. Well, I do work for both those companies currently.
Awesome. We got a whole room of people here with a lot of questions. I asked Jake the first question. I want to start maybe with you, with a question for you to see how we can get into. Let me ask you this: is pro wrestling a hard business to break into?
Yes, I would say yes and no. It depends on what your background is in. I feel like I had a kind of a good start on it because I came from being in a band for a lot of my life, and a lot of wrestling is similar to that as far as promoting yourself and getting yourself booked and knowing your worth as an artist. But if you don't have that kind of background, if you don't have that kind of knowledge, then I would say that it's very difficult. It's hard to put yourself out there to complete strangers and try to sell yourself. And also, when it comes down to money, I think that's always an awkward conversation. But, promoters kind of make that awkward on purpose so that they can undercharge you.
Thank you, Brody. I appreciate that. I have a list of people that have questions, and then probably just you and Jake can go back and forth, giving your perspectives on the questions that we have. Max is going to be next on his question. Why don't you go ahead and ask Jake and Brody what your question is, my friend?
Yeah, this can apply to both of you. I'm a big character guy as a disabled guy who can't wrestle, so I'm going for the manager stuff. So for character, just who do you guys go to outside of wrestling, in wrestling, in the back, just for inspiration or for deep diving into your own character or even yourself, I guess. I guess it's just what gets you going on your character.
Jake Atlas, you want to go?
I figured it would be Jake first.
Let's see. If there's anyone that I look to for inspiration on my character, I watch a lot of what makes me happy, like in films and TV, and what makes me react. I also we work with acting coaches every week, so that helps us out as well. They give us monologues to practice, and we practice them in different ways. We either practice the monologues in the way the character, whatever the character is, say it's like Captain Marvel or Captain America, sorry, or whatever, and we say it like that, and then we change it to how would Jake Atlas say it? How would you say it? And we go over lots of things. We go over adjectives, or like the one that she has these card archetypes. That's what I was. That's a good, like, archetypes, like the sinner or the dark horse, like these things. I don't even know. They're like acting drills. But they're called archetypes. And if you look up archetypes, it gives you a list of like they're like not adjectives, but like they describe characters. It's like the luminary or the visionary, like things like that. And it tells you what that means. And so we work a lot with that. We try to find things that are with who we are as people. We're right now we're like in a reality based, at least this company, like it's reality based. So like they try to take out the human in you, or like who you are, and then try to portray that through the character, as opposed to giving you something that you're not, like a Doink the Clown or something. Like we're not in that, at least right now, like our company isn't in that direction. So it's just like archetypes is one thing that I would suggest for you, is like Google that, search that up, and then that's something that's helped me at least.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of a hard question, because I feel like myself, Brody King, is me. That is like who I am as a person. I kind of pull inspiration from music and from comic books and from movies, but essentially most of the things that I say or do are things that I believe in real life. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I like to bring reality into it, but I think if you speak authentically, then people buy into it more. Because, most people can see through someone that doesn't believe in what they're saying. So, some of the things that I like to watch, or to base my character around, as far as like how I want it perceived or how I want to deliver it, is, the Punisher, like guys like Frank Castle. Like he's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He's just someone that believes in what he believes in. He's going to get the job done. I've always looked up to people like Henry Rollins of Black Flag. He's, a well-spoken person, but also had a physical, violent mystique around him, I guess you could say. But yeah, movies, comic books, I think are huge tools that a lot of people don't look towards. A lot of people in wrestling just want to be like, oh, I like The Rock, so I kind of want to be like The Rock. But then, John Smith he doesn't have the charisma of The Rock. Hello. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Room service.
All right, thanks. Bye. Sorry, I had to answer a call. But yeah, as far as character, the company that I am in, Ring of Honor and New Japan, are both, I feel like they both tiptoe on the reality. Like they want to be a sports-based professional wrestling company, but they also don't have a problem with using the big characters. Like you have guys like Evil in New Japan, and you have guys like PCO, who's an inhumane monster in Ring of Honor. So you kind of have the best of everything with those companies, and I think that they are able to balance them out well without them being like super corny.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that movies, books, TVs, comics, really getting the inspiration from that, doing improv really helps. But I think just really like a lot of characters that you like that you can connect with, because that's what we're trying to do, is connect with our audience. So if you can find a character that you connect, and I would never copy anything directly. I would, put, mix a couple of things in and put it together and make that unique you. So let's see who we have next here. Kristen is next. And I'll send you guys. I'm gonna send Jake and Brody Kristen's promos, because her promos have been really really good, really good. I've enjoyed them, to be honest. So Kristen, what is your question today?
Uh, okay. When going through the different promotions, has there been a time where you've needed to protect your characters, especially like if a booker like puts you in a like a role or a storyline that kind of seems very painfully or kind of insultingly stereotypical? This is more directed towards Jake Atlas, being somebody who's also LGBT, but actually Brody as well.
So
Jake?
I think
Yeah.
okay. I'm trying to dissect the question. I've never really had like a character, so it's hard for me to like
Yeah, that's
have,
for sure.
have something to protect. You know what I mean? Like I've kind of been like, I've just tried to be good in the ring, and then for a period of time I tried to be like this superstar, like bomb type character. But I never came across an opportunity to be like, oh man, my character wouldn't do that. I kind of just work with it. So the best answer I can give is how it's going on here, in that, like, if they were to tell you, hey, what you did on the indies, you're not doing it here. Like, you kind of have to, listen, at least here. You know what I mean? Like, and to kind of touch on the LGBT side, since you brought it up, like even here, when I got here, Triple H and I had a conversation where we basically said we kind of want to like kind of hinder down on the gay thing for a little bit, and kind of reset myself so that I'm not just known for that. So every promotion is different, and people are going to approach you differently. I've never had an issue at any promotions. Like let's just say my character was like the gay kid, whatever. Like, if some people saw it that way, like, no promotion seemed to ever have an issue with it or say that like you have to change it, But also it's hard for me to answer that, because I've never really had like a character, like a different,
So I feel like I kind of understand your question. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but when I've been at promotions that I've never really ran into a promotion that just wants me to be something completely different than what I am. But if you do run into that, I do think it is important for you to kind of like use your voice and not just like change who you are completely to cater to whatever they want. As far as the LGBT comment, if you're saying like if they want to put you in a storyline where you're like, if you are a gay person and they want you to be in a relationship like a straight person, then I do think it's very important for you to speak up if you do not feel comfortable with that. Honestly, I feel like people should speak up if they don't feel comfortable with any part of what they're doing, especially, when it comes to personal stuff like that. But yeah, I think if someone told me, hey, Brody, we need you to be a fucking circus clown today, I would be like, no, that's not happening. Some of the best advice I ever got was, you are who you are, whether it be heel or face. You just have to kind of navigate what you would do in those situations, but you should never change what your character is.
Thank you guys very much, and yes, that was exactly what I was going for, Brody. So thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Taylor has a question. What do you have? You have a question for these two guys, Jake Atlas and Brody King?
I do. Hi, good evening. So I just wanted to talk about the transition from the indies to I don't. So from Indies to like WWE and NXT, as well as the other circuits you guys are working. From that transition, would you say that there's anything that you had to change significantly? Like maybe your training style had to be changed, or character development, or even more so, like were there any habits that you maybe felt like you picked up that you had to change about yourself? I'm trying to word the question because it's like a bunch of different half questions, but ultimately, I guess the difference is from transitioning from Indies to moving forward.
As far as Ring of Honor or New Japan, they kind of, I feel like they hire what they see, and the product that they want is what you already have, and then they just try to enhance that. Like when I got to Ring of Honor, I had to learn how to be a better, I guess, character, because that's really when you're allowed to start becoming one, is when you have dedicated TV time, and that's when you can really start figuring out what you want to be. On the independents, it's very much like be a good wrestler, be entertaining. That's it. You don't really have to worry about being a character unless that's what's getting you over. Like there's people like Danhausen, like Warhorse, like Alley Cat that are very much involved with their gimmick, and that's what's getting them paid. So by all means, if you have a character like that, then go full fledged with that, because that seems like something that's really benefiting wrestlers right now. But as far as my pattern, it was just trying to be, the best professional wrestler I could be. And that's what got me booked around. And now that I'm in a place where I can develop my character more, that now I'm doing that. But I know that the WWE is a lot more strict with their creative control, but creative freedom is welcomed at Ring of Honor. So I'm fortunate for that.
I think I would say it's the same as far as like wrestling, especially like on an NXT brand. I think NXT and like main roster WWE are very different. I think NXT is very trendy, and they're trying to compete with the likes of Ring of Honor and AEW, and trying to have these like these action-packed good wrestling matches. So the transition wasn't too hard because I was already trying to do that on the indies. So it's now trying to do that in front of a camera on TV. The only difference is obviously being something, and Brody hit the nail on the head. Just being more of a character. Like he said, on the indies, you kind of just had to be good and entertaining. But now it's like you have to have people. Like people need to want to tune into your segment because you're compelling, or your story matters, or your story is, especially in a time now where we're competing and losing, to another wrestling company. Like we have, like, it's that transition of what makes you an asset and what makes you a draw. It's thinking of that as well. And obviously and Brody is right. It's a little bit stricter here. You not what you say isn't always what happens, actually almost never. But you try your best to work around with what you're given and try to make that happen for you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Like I think that just to kind of top on her question about what the transition from the WWE, like I think the main thing is just, are you connecting with an audience? And I think that's going to be really the defining source of working at those next levels. So if you can connect on the independent level, right? Keep doing this. I think I just told Jake this also. Like, do what got you to the show. Keep doing what got you there. So because they sometimes want to see that, as opposed to, and I think this came up in the last one, Jake and Brody, was don't give them what you think they want to see. Give them your heart. And I think that would always help out. But these guys will give you the specifics on the actual companies that they're in. So I appreciate that, guys. Tino is next, and Tino has a question.
Hey guys, so I have 3 questions for you. When you guys were training, what was the hardest thing to kind of like grasp about pro wrestling? When you guys were both starting out in the indie scene, what was kind of like the hardest thing to like do? Wait, like when you guys were in it in terms of outside of just wrestling? And also, now that you guys are wrestling in front of cameras, how has your wrestling style changed because there's a camera there? Because I've heard that it's like it's very different from when you're wrestling on the indie scene.
Okay, so I forgot what the first question was now. Oh, okay, so the hardest part for me to grasp in wrestling, I guess, was just psychology. Like Chaos was pointing out, I didn't really understand like you're going too fast, you're going too slow, like you're just trying to find the right pace in wrestling is very difficult, especially for a large person. It's like they don't want you to be fast, they don't want you to be slow, like you're some weird in between. And I just kind of like said fuck it, and I just did kind of what I wanted, and he helped me kind of wrangle that into being the wrestler that I was. As far as what was the most difficult thing outside of wrestling while being on the independents, you have to basically accept that you're never going to see your friends and family for a few years until you hopefully make it a success in wrestling. There's about a 2-year period where my friends joke now, because now that I have time to hang out with them, they're like, hey, remember that time that you were just gone for 2 years? Like, I didn't talk to anybody. I try to keep up, but you're going to miss, weddings, and you're going to miss birthdays and whatever else, because you're trying to make something happen, because you think everything is a good opportunity, which is not. I do not recommend missing huge milestone events for wrestling, because those will never happen again, and I promise you the promoter will book you again if he wants you bad enough. What was your third question?
Wrestling
So
with cameras, and if it's different.
Yeah, my wrestling is not any different because of cameras. That means nothing to me. The camera will find me. I don't care. I just look at hard cam at the end, though.
I think you make a great point, Brody, about the sacrifice, and I'm so glad. I just mentioned to them yesterday about how I missed my grandmother's and my grandfather's 50th anniversary, and when she passed away, those were the pictures that they used, and I wasn't in one picture. And where was I? I was at wrestling. For what show? I could not tell you, but I know at the time I thought it was 100% important. I could not miss it, and that's not true. If Brody's 100% right there, they will book you again. Jake, Mr. Jake.
I think the hardest thing for me is I think athletically everything came to me. Obviously, putting a match together is always difficult. But I think just putting personality into what I was doing, not just doing things to do it, like finding personality in my movements, and why am I doing it, and why would people care? I would say it took me 2 years, up until 2019, to really understand that. And ultimately that was my good year. What was difficult outside of wrestling? Trying to rush to make good money off this so that my mom would stop telling me to pursue, like, so that my mom would be happy. Just it's same as Brody, just sacrificing family stuff and family time, and like having to cope and deal with. I lived at home and my mom didn't work, and my brother and I were the ones that had to pay for our rent and stuff. So trying to make ends meet and trying to make mom happy, while also trying to pursue my dream at 22 years old, but also trying to be a man was hard. And then same with Brody. Actually, that's not a thing here at NXT. We don't say wrestle, like we don't change the cameras will find us. There are roaming cams and there are hard cams. They know what they have to do.
Yeah, stop. People always say you have to find the hard camera. You have to find the hard camera, and then you hear Stone Cold Steve Austin say, "There's 8 fucking cameras out there. Let them find me." Yes. So you know what? I'm not going to argue with Stone Cold.
Right? I think Stone Cold also comes from the era, and you'll see it. he will pin with his back to the camera. And you rarely will see that today.
Love it.
Everyone's always facing the camera. And I think Jake added that he said physically, I knew everything right off the bat.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
He was like a gymnast. He would before he did his rolls, everything was like that. So there was stuff that he had to learn. I think maybe you don't remember, but everything he did, everything with a roll, it was.
I'll be right back.
Yes, Brody. It was like he was on a balance bar every single time. But yeah, like even when you think like I think everyone goes into it, you think like, man, I'm really good. I'm really good. Even when you think that there's nothing wrong with, there's always something to work on coming in and breaking into the business there. So, Tino, did they answer all your questions, my friend?
Yeah, they did. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Sage is next. Sage, what's your question for Jake right now? And we'll ask it in if Brody comes back when he comes back.
No worries. I tried to like bundle these all in so they weren't like 1,000 things because I'm mostly kind of interested in the behind the scenes we're not seeing, Jake, with WWE. But okay, so a couple things. You guys are so freaking impressive with your timeline. So I'm just kind of curious what your opinion or what your advice and kind of how you went about getting so many bookings and building up your status in those bookings and traveling and getting to those places so quickly. And I know you got the agent at that match, so that was incredible. But also kind of the behind the scenes, what is the regiment they're giving you guys, like training and the name? I'm curious if there was any kind of like thing you had to sign to keep your name or any conversation about that.
Sure, yeah. So I think in terms of like my trajectory and like getting somewhere or trying to make a name for myself, I'm not very good at networking, and honestly, that's huge. That's how a lot of people have gotten to where they are. Brody is a perfect example. Brody is great at networking, and he'll be friends with anyone. He'll know how to strike up a conversation with just about anyone, and will know what to talk about. I'm the complete opposite, but I've always believed that if you make a good impression, then people will want to see more of you. If you make a good impression somewhere, they'll want to see a second impression and a third. And Brody helped me a lot in connecting dots with certain people. Like I know someone, and then Brody would be that connecting dot. So he was a huge influence to helping me in 2019 to really, and I wish he was here to listen. But I'm not just putting him over because he's on the call because he's not here. He helped me a lot. As far as here, like behind the scene stuff. So obviously it's so different right now with the pandemic, but at the time before, we would train 5 days a week. And it includes obviously in-ring training for 2 hours and then a 1 hour gym session plus acting work at the facility. So we're at the performance center at least, 6 hours, 5 days a week, working on in-ring, promo, and actual lifting and gym with the strength coach. And obviously now it's toned down a bit. We're not in there as much because they're trying to space us all out and not have us all at the same at the building at the same time for safety reasons. And then as far as my name, it's so interesting. I think I just had to ask. I think so. There are these matches that we do in-house. They're called PC Live matches, and they're just performance center matches, and they're just for reps and for the coaches. It's like an in-house system. This doesn't go anywhere. And so I was booked for my first one. Like when you get signed, you get within the week or two, they give you a PC Live match just so the coaches get familiar with you in case they weren't. And I think I just asked the ring announcer, like, am I going to be Kenny or am I going to be Jake Atlas? And then she asked Bloom, the head coach, and then he said, no, he could be Jake Atlas. And then I just recently signed over something that allowed them to trademark Jake Atlas. And there are a lot of reasons that went into that decision. A lot of them being that I was already on TV, so they kind of played me a little bit. They had already debuted me on TV and used me as Jake Atlas, so it would have been weird to just change my name. And I was like, you know what? All right, I'll do it. And I personally didn't mind it for my own personal reasons, I think I was okay with it. And I also just look at it as a risk and kind of just sink or swim. Now I have to be successful as Jake Atlas here at WWE, or I have to get a new name if I get released, you know? So that's my thoughts on that.
You'll be
Brody, I
Kenny
was
Marquez.
over. Sorry.
What was the question?
The question. What was your question? It was how did you start? How did you start traveling, and getting notoriety as an indie wrestler? Was that your question, Sage?
Yeah, I was saying, Brody, you guys have had such an incredible timeline. Just for, like if another wrestler, what was your like base of just getting to travel and to get brought? Like, was it word of mouth? Was promoters sorting you out, or were you sorting them out?
So it was wrestler word of mouth. So I started doing ring crew for PCW Ultra. I eventually got on their show. I started talking with the wrestlers there, became friends with Shane Strickland and a couple other people. Then I got booked at Defy because they had seen some of my stuff at PCW, and they were kind of partners at the time. And after my debut at Defy, they asked me to wrestle Shane, who was their champion, on the next show. And Shane kind of put my name out to AAW, which is in Chicago, and he also gave my name to Court Bauer, who owns MLW, and then it just kind of spread from there. And then Justin Borden and Rick Knox both brought my name up to Super Dragon at PWG, and I think they had done it a few times until he kind of gave me the call. So it was very word of mouth, and it's very just be nice to everybody, and hopefully it'll come back to you.
And then with Ring of Honor, you said you have a lot of freedom. Do they give you guys, segments, things that they expect of you to do, training, or is it pretty much just an elevated indie experience?
Yeah, it's I would definitely call it an elevated indie experience with, TV production. I don't think that they've ever really told me anything I have to do or something I can't do. Like, obviously, in certain states you can't bleed or something like that, but that's about it. I mean, they're usually open to any ideas you have. Like, they'll give you a rough outline, but for the most part, it's kind of what you want to do.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So it's key in networking, but not only networking, right, Brody and Jake? Like, you also have to light it the fuck up, right? They gotta want you back.
You gotta be able to sell yourself, and you have to be able to deliver what you're selling. And also, I think a lot of people take networking and punishing as the same thing. Do not bug the fuck out of the promoters. I would say kind of introduce yourself. If you have some kind of email to send them with matches and stuff, send it to them. But don't be the guy that hits them up every week and is like, did you watch it? Did you watch it? Did you watch it? Because then they're never going to book you.
Networking is key. I mean, we were just that's what Jake was putting you over, Brody, saying that you're incredible at networking. He actually said you're incredible at just making friends, just generally making friends, not for the purpose of trying to get a booking, but to generally make friends, So I think that helps you out a lot too.
Well, I've always been what my mom would call a social butterfly, but and it's funny because I say that I don't like a lot of people, but I'm pretty good at making friends, like you said. And, people genuinely want to help out others that they are friends with. And that's just kind of worked in my favor.
Thank you, Brody. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Sage. I got Alfredo, Hyde, and Philip. Is there anybody else that has a question that they've written down and want to ask? So I put you on the list. I got Tino's got another one, Mr. Tino. He already had 3. All right, and Max got another one. I know some of them asked a couple of questions before Jake was in the room. Is that it? Is that everybody? Is that everybody that has a question? I have them on my list. All right. Alfredo, you're next, my friend.
This is for both of you. What was the first place you got booked at, and how did you feel knowing you could get booked outside of Santino Bros?
Oh boy, I don't even know.
There was a promotion that I don't know if maybe it's still there. and it was called Orange County
OCCW.
OCCW. That was the first show I ever did. Guy Cool and Darwin Finch helped me get on that. That was the first show that I ever did outside of Santino Brothers. I think it was either a couple days after, or the week after, and I was on a high. I was feeling like I kept going to their shows even though I wasn't booked. Like I was just so happy that another place booked me, and I think they paid me like $5, and I still have those $5. Like it was or $10. I don't remember.
You don't
But
still have that $5, do you?
I do. I never spent
Really?
it. I never spent it. I kept it.
You know, I have someone wanted my autograph, and I'd always give an autograph. But I was sitting at a table once, and they said, "Can I have your autograph?" Give them an autograph. They gave me $5. I still have that $5. I was like, I'm never going to spend this $5. Someone want my autograph. That's crazy. You still have that $5, Mr. Jake.
I'm trying to think of where I don't know where I wrestled first. It might have been just some shitty lucha show, but if probably Championship Wrestling from Hollywood or EWF maybe.
Maybe was it Brian Kendrick's show? No, that might not have been first.
No.
I'm trying to rack my brain and think, what was Brody's first show outside?
Watch him say something like "Defy" or something.
It might be.
No. So okay, I think I speak for me and Jake on this. We had a really hard time getting booked locally. I don't want to say that we had an ego to us, even though we probably did. It wasn't AWS. I had to work for AWS. I had to do ring crew for a while before they booked me. But yeah, so me and Jake, we kind of like came out of the gate really hot, and like we were, I would say we were pretty good for how long we'd been wrestling or lack thereof. And we kind of knew it, and we kind of knew that we had something a little bit more than some of the other local guys, and I think it maybe rubbed people the wrong way, and also the fact that I was much bigger than a lot of people. They didn't really have a spot for me to fill because they didn't want to like have the guy that's 5'5", beating the guy that's 6'5". It just wouldn't make any sense. And Jake has this very charming personality and resting bitch face that gets him loved by people all around the world.
I think in their last match, Jake broke my man's jaw, right, Brody?
Yeah, he might have done that.
I
Brody, might have had to wrestle with my jaw wired shut.
Brody, do you know what Terry Taylor calls me? He says potato maker. He calls me potato maker.
Yeah. Brother, you have pause. You have pause
already.
You're stiff as fuck.
He's got bigger hands than you, Brody. He's got paws. He's got like bear paws over there, and he doesn't understand when they come down. They're like, those are hands of stone. Just grabbing you to pick you up. It's just like getting hit in the head with a bear paw.
It was definitely rough going to some of the local shows, and they want to put you with somebody, and they've been wrestling for who knows how long, 5 to 10 years, and your skill level is already way above theirs, and like you try to call this match that you think that they can follow, and then it just kind of falls apart. So it's like it's a hard thing to do at first. Training at Santino's kind of like puts you in the lane for success, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else wrestling around you is going to be on the same level.
Yeah, we'll definitely teach you how to carry someone in a match. Do they want to be carried is a different story, right?
Yes.
All right. Hyde, Mr. Hyde, you guys know this guy? El Premio Genio?
Don't ask me a stupid question, Hyde.
You should have the best question.
Motherfucker. This first one.
All right, fucker.
This first one is for Jake, and then the second one's for both of you. But you were talking about at the PC. There's a lot of people that have been like having contracts, but I don't really see like a whole bunch of new faces. And like on NXT, but you have, and you seem to like surpass them. So what do you think? What do you think like helped you to like move on from from the PC lower level to now going to like the NXT? You know, like developmental. You know,
Be really good.
Yeah, just be really good. I was really good. Okay. I don't think I'm really good, but I obviously made a name for myself in 2019, and had a really great match with Jungle Boy, and obviously that was the match that got me hired. So obviously the guy who saw the match, Jim Smallman, the Progress promoter, is friends with William Regal. William Regal obviously works and reports to Hunter and Shawn Michaels. So it's one of those things where they all know who you are already, you know. So even though we get new recruits all the time, it could be a thing where they got signed off a tryout and Hunter's never seen them, or Triple H has never seen them. So they gotta be good, and they gotta show that they're good before they get there, you know. And also, there's just, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know why they've been using me on NXT. I don't know why they've been using me on TV. But what's up?
I'm not saying like it probably came out wrong. I'm not saying like why are you on NXT and they're not. I'm saying like if they're on that level, how can they go to like being on your?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Just knowing what's expected of them and what the style is. So like one thing right now is like NXT is on obviously a style where we need to compete with companies like Ring of Honor, New Japan, and AEW. Like that's where they're comparing us to, right? That's where they're or lack thereof, they're saying like we're not up to par to that, you know. So obviously everyone that's there is going to do their best to try to elevate the brand, you know, or try to, you know, if there's a great match at AEW, there we should mirror that, right? So we're all trying to be up to par, not only in the wrestling, but obviously in the compelling like the character, you know, someone like a Cross, like, you know, he comes out and you're invested, whether it's the song, whether it's Scarlet, whether it's whatever it is, like. So what do you bring? Like, if you're a new recruit, what do you bring to the table for it? You know, I'll give you a perfect example. The Rascals just obviously got announced, and they're new recruits. Well, obviously they have a good tag team pedigree from Impact, and just from, you know, people lauding them as a good tag team. They were PWG tag team champions. So obviously we know that, and there are other recruits, right, in their class. So they're obviously going to be put on TV first. And it's up to the people, the other recruits in their class, to just be up to the one thing that Canyon told us in the meeting, in my like orientation, and it was one thing that shocked me, was he just says, be good at wrestling. That's it. Just be great at wrestling and everything will come. Just be great at wrestling. And I know that's kind of ironic with it being WWE. We're not a wrestling company, but that's what he said. So I think that's if I were to tell the new recruits that's what I would say, is just focus on being great at wrestling.
And
I think also they you know, obviously hire a lot of people that are from sports backgrounds, so they have to kind of play catch up.
Yeah.
To get to the level that Jake has already been at, and also with networking, like when Jake got there, Shane Strickland was already on TV, and Shane, you know, knows that Jake is good and knows that he can have a good match with Jake. So he's obviously going to be like, yo, this kid is the real deal, and that means a lot for someone that's already there to put over someone that just got there. In their head, they're like, okay, this kid's ready.
okay, and the second question, in your matches, did you ever feel you had to do something that you didn't want to do? For instance, like you feel you have a good match, but you're like, nah, I feel like we need to add something more, like a hope spot here, or like just like a certain like for instance, like if you do like, oh, I'm gonna bend over, you're gonna go for a sunset flip, just to add that little something there, just to be able to tell a better story. Because my wrestling, like I feel my matches are good, but I feel like I have to be adding more stuff, like just to elevate the match level. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, did you ever, you know, have to kind of break your belief? Like, I have to do this because this is what's getting over. The matches are, you know, just how you see matches, like where if, like for instance, like PCW, when you see those matches, like how they build up and how they struggle to get the move. I feel like I'm not there yet to be able to tell that kind of story, and I want to be there. It's just really hard to comprehend, like when you should be doing like, I'm gonna go for the German, but then they're gonna like break out of it. They float behind. Like that shit's like confusing for me, just showing the struggle. So like, did you ever feel like, I guess it's kind of a complex question, but mainly, did you ever feel you had
Are you saying that you want to do that and you don't know how to say it? Is that what I'm getting
You
at?
don't know how to do it. I think I understand.
more
It comes with repetition. Like it comes with trial and error, and that's really all wrestling is testing stuff out in front. And it sucks right now because you have to test stuff out in front of a live audience and see what works and see what doesn't. And my biggest thing is if I'm wrestling somebody that has any kind of name value or someone that I think that I can have a really good match with, I try to find out, I try to watch some of their best matches and then try to incorporate some of that into what we can do together. Like you said, you like these matches at PCW, like watch why the crowd reacts that way, because it's not because of the move. The move is meaningless. It's because of where they put it and what they're doing to get that emotion out of them. And that's what you should be studying, not what moves they're doing, because moves mean nothing unless you have a reason behind it.
I'm not saying like I pop. I'm not trying to say like they pop for the move that they did. I'm saying like the build up, and like I just don't know how like if you like ever felt like you had to get into a move a certain way because that's what's expected from you, and then you feel like fuck, it was a good match, but it's because it had to be like that,
No.
No. All right, I'm good.
Okay.
All right. Philip has a question.
Sage kind of covered a lot of my question. How did you guys go from local shows to traveling out to like Defy and up to San Francisco? Because I love traveling. That's a lot of what I want to get into wrestling for, is to do the traveling. But then you guys just said that you had a kind of a hard time getting local shows. So I was wondering how does it work? Do you have to build up a certain amount of local experience before you branch out to go to other places? Or can you, once you're trained from Santino's, reach out and see what you get?
Always be a helping hand. Obviously, again, it's hard right now because there's nothing going on. But, I always set small goals for myself. And, at first, AWS was like the popular spot in town to get booked on. So I went and talked to Bart and I said, can I do security? Can I do ring crew? Whatever. However I could help out, cleaning up after the shows. Always helping somehow. And people always want to help those that help them. And then from there, I went to PCW and I helped with the ring crew there, and I helped with the setup. I was there from noon to 2 a.m. Every Friday that they had a show. And, that speaks volumes to the booker and the owner and stuff like that. And I kind of passed that duty on to Jake Atlas, and Jake Atlas kind of like did the same thing. We kind of followed the same path. Like, because Jake got hurt, he was like a year behind me. But I think that maybe with his, I don't want to say that he has a lack of networking, but I was able to kind of pass a lot of the stuff that I had networked onto him, and then he was able to kind of build off of that.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the earlier when you were getting your food that a lot of my 2019 and my success there was because of you, or your help. Something that he touched on is being a helping hand and also setting small goals for yourself. I think that once you accomplish those small goals, they're almost a confidence boost, and he mentioned, like he said, AWS, and I for me it was the same thing. AWS was my goal, and it was accomplishing these little things of what's popular, what's in high demand. Can I get there? Or like, it means something to me. That's my goal. Oh, I made it. And it makes you that much, inclined to pursue the next one and the next one and the next one. Someone who's doing it now, I'll point him out. Like Vinny just did the Young Lions Cup for APW up in San Francisco. Now, obviously, on a national level, some people may know what it is and some people may not. But on a California level, at least when I was doing it, I saw Brody do it. So when I saw Brody do it, it was a small goal for me. I said, oh, now I want to do it. And you accomplish that helps you accomplish the next one, because you see that something's working. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that's what Vinny felt, where it's like, oh, Brody did it, then Jake did it, so now I want it. Like, so it's these little victories help with the bigger victories. And then to add on the helping hand thing too, Brody and I flew ourselves to Texas once, and we flew ourselves there to do a promotion called Wrestle Circus. And we didn't have a match, I don't think. I think we were told we might, but we went in there to help out. We set up the ring. We were there early. We started setting up the ring. We set up the chairs. We set up the venue. We set up everything, because that's just what we're trained to do. And thankfully, we were, we were given a dark match, and they were very impressed with, they were more impressed with our professionalism. You know what I mean? Sometimes that goes a lot farther than what you actually do in the ring. They were impressed that we were good people. We came to help, and it looked like we came with a good attitude.
And real help. Don't just say I want to help out to be backstage to get into the show for free and hang out with the wrestlers. Like real help. Like you should be like sweating and like it sucks. That's the sacrifice.
Yes.
Tino had a follow-up question. Mr. Tino.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you guys, how long did it take for you guys to build up the confidence to actually start calling your own matches?
So it really depends on who you're wrestling. I would hear some people be like, you never tell a veteran what to do in a match, which I do not think is an accurate statement, especially nowadays, because a younger person might have some, crazy idea, but that you can kind of mold that into something else. I feel like I was always very, I always came with ideas, but I never told anybody like what was going to happen. And I think it wasn't really until I came to Ring of Honor where I really felt comfortable. If I was working somebody new and young, that I was like, okay, this is what we should do. But even then, it's like, what are your ideas? Like, what I want to know all of your ideas first, just to see what's good, what's bad, what we can use, what we get, and then go from there. I don't think that you should ever be in a position to where someone's like, this is the match, this is how it's going to go. These are your moves. Now go do it. Like, that sucks. And that's not pro wrestling, and that's not fun. It should always be a give and take. And you should always have somebody there that's willing to want to elevate you and want to help you get to the next level. But calling a match is hard, and it's an art form in itself. There's some people that have made an entire career off of being agents because they know what works and what doesn't, but maybe physically they can't do it themselves, or they can't, they don't have the crowd reaction that they feel like they could get. I think a really good example of that is QT Marshall. He works for AEW right now. He's always been very talented, and he can have great matches, but I think he works as a better hand as an agent because he knows what good ideas are and how to implement them with other guys. So you kind of just like, I watched a lot of wrestling, but at first it's like trying to read, calculus when you haven't even done basic math. So you kind of got to start at the bottom and then build from there.
I'll just add to that. Like, a true veteran will never tell you like this is what it is. Like, anyone who says they're a vet, well, a true vet or a good vet will always be like, hey, what are your ideas? What do you got? And then mold the match from there. Because like Brody said, it's give and take. And then then he'll tell you, hey, this works better like this. He won't flat out be like, no, that sucks, man. Like, no true good vet or good wrestler who's been doing this for a while will tell you that. Like, I wouldn't do that with someone who's coming up. Like, so they may have a better idea than me. And I think once you do that repetitively, you start to build confidence as well, in seeing like, oh, that idea worked with, Brody. So that might have been a good idea, and you grow from there.
Yeah, I think that to add to your question also, Tino, like I actually remember the first time like Jake said, I felt really confident and good after a match was my match with Shane Strickland at Defy. Because when I was calling it with Shane, it was like I expected him to be like, okay, this is what we should do. Because I was like, this is my first like big indie match with a bigger indie name. And I went in there and he's like, all right, what do you got? And I'm like, what do you mean what do I got? This is your place. Like, you're the champion. Like, what do you tell me what to do? And then he just kept being like, okay, what's next? And what's next? And I would give him ideas and he'd be like, okay, that's cool. And then he would use it in a way that it made sense. And afterwards, it's like I watched the match and it's like, it's very 50-50 and half of the ideas were mine and half of them were him. And you come out being like, oh, wow, I'm starting to understand this pro wrestling thing and I do have good ideas. And that, like you said, the confidence boost really helps in the end.
And you have to give your ideas. It's nice to go in there and say, Brody, what are we going to do today? And Brody calls the whole thing, and you can follow his lead. Brody's going to appreciate that more so than someone that can't follow his lead. But here's what happens: is I've seen the Young Bucks call a match where they're like, double up and over, flag me out, come back in, duck the super kick, hit this, and then what do you want to do? And you're like, back body drop. Okay, Joey does the back body drop, and then we're gonna do this, and that's all you got. And it's, you're not putting in there. And you want to be able to get to that ability to be able to call a match, carry a match if you have to. Are you necessarily going to? You might not. Brody might not let you. Jake might not let you. But you should want to get to that ability. I do understand there's some wrestlers that don't get there, and it's hard. And they just follow people's lead, and that makes it harder for them and harder to remember that match too.
Yeah.
Max has a follow-up question. Where's Max?
Right here. Hello. Sorry. I guess I'm just trying to think of how to word this. So I have one question for Jake and one question for Brody. So for Jake, just where did the inspiration for the LGB DDT come from? Like just the move itself. And then Brody, for NJPW and just a different style of wrestling that isn't the American style, just what did you have to do in terms of listening to a coach or listening to the wrestlers that you're working with to adapt to the style? And yeah.
Mine is a short answer. So I saw something similar on an Instagram story, like a photographer at a lucha show. I saw something similar, and then I just took it to my coach, and I said, what if I do this?
Stole it.
Hey, what is it, LGBTQ or no Q?
It's not called that anymore.
Oh, okay.
So it's called the Cartwheel DDT now, right?
Yeah, which we're working on getting it called Stonewall.
That sucks.
Hey, I get people always ask, why is it called LGBTQ DDT? And I say, hey, that's what the man named it. What do you want me to do? But hey, was there a Q or no Q?
There was never a Q.
There never was. Okay, well, I got to do some updating.
I'm sorry I got the name wrong. I thought it was LGBTDT. That's my bad.
It was that on the Independence.
Okay.
We have to change it.
So my answer is I didn't have to adjust anything really. I would say that Santino's is very much based in Japanese pro wrestling and lucha libre and American pro wrestling, but like the main thing that they want to see in New Japan is great basics. They want to see a strong lockup. They want to see, good strikes. They want to see good wrestling. And that's really all they care about. I remember watching a match. I forgot who it was. Might have been like Marty Scurll and somebody else. And they were like killing it. And the crowd was on fire. And I was watching Gato watch the match. And he was just like, yeah, but the bumps are shitty. Like, he didn't give a shit that they were tearing the house down. He didn't like that they weren't bumping good. And then I remember the next night I had to do a spot with Shingo, and Shingo gave me a lariat, and I came in the back and Gedo went, "Oh, good bump," and I was like, that like meant a lot to me. And like footwork, strikes, bumping, selling, like that's all the shit that they care about. Everything else is just, you know, icing on the cake, but that's the foundation of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
And that'll help you. That will help you. Those basics are going to help you when you're tired, when you're hurt, when you don't think you can bring the crowd back because maybe someone blew a spot. Those basics will help you tremendously. And it's like sometimes maybe that's why I always push it. Sometimes the younger wrestlers don't understand it until later. Like I know I didn't get it. I didn't get it. They could talk to me and tell me, and I still would just go in one ear out the other. But those fundamentals are key to your success.
Someone that stands out to me currently and on the American side of like New Japan Pro Wrestling that I've watched, because I saw him before he was at the dojo, and then now is I don't know, Brody might disagree, but Carl Fredericks has like night and day from what he used to be before the New Japan Pro Wrestling dojo to what he is now. And I think it's because of what Brody just said. I think his basics and his foundation are crispier. He wrestles the same, but it's more intense and it's more realistic. And I can see the difference. Like what when Brody was saying what New Japan Pro Wrestling is, I've obviously never worked there, but watching it and watching Carl, I can see that difference. I can see it. I'm not even what he's doing, you know, because he's probably doing the same moves that he did before. But it's the little things that make him look better. So that's a testament.
Yeah, I mean, New Japan style, when you become a young lion, is they strip you down completely. They shave your head, they give you black gear, and they tell you, you know, if you have a match, you can do 2 moves. Usually it's a drop kick, a shoulder tackle, and maybe a chop. But like you're not allowed to forearm, you're not allowed to do a lot of things until they give you permission to do it. And that's just to build you from the ground up. Like he said, there was guys like Carl Fredericks, guys like Clark Connors who were already working, and they'd already been working for a couple of years at that point, that they stripped down completely and turned them into the pro wrestler that they are now, which is a night and day difference. And they're just monsters now. And I feel like that, you know, out of all performance centers or training academies or whatever, there's no product that is more proven than the New Japan Young Lions program, because they've churned out star after star after star that are all phenomenal wrestlers and just, you know, great entertainers as well.
Yeah, I got a chance to work with Clark Connors, who's also a young lion, and he had 2 moves. He had the spear and the Boston Crab, and he made those moves everything. And it's just so much, right? Less is more. That well, probably watching them, watching those young lions will really give you the great idea, because you hear it all the time in wrestling. Less is more, less is more, less is more. Watching those young lions, you're definitely going to see the less is more. As Brody even said, they have 2 moves. And it's not like you even watch the match and go, oh, well, it only has 2 moves. You don't even think about that. If you're studying it, you'll see it and you'll understand it. But yeah, I encouraged DKC, and I said, hey man, if I was wrestling on the circuit right now and I already knew how to wrestle, I would go to New Japan. I would go. It's right down the street right here in Long Beach. And you know, and then he went, and I think he's now a young lion. Is that true?
He just became a young lion, yeah.
Just became, and I thought that was so great, you know, just to take advantage of that, you know. And but yeah, they are going to strip you down and probably tell you change how you're going to work. Obviously, they will.
I mean, like you said, less is more, and there's no more proven product than Shibata himself. Like when you watch his matches, they are not like, they're definitely not a Will Ospreay match. He's gonna do very, very minimal moves, and all the moves he does is very effective. And it's just about his presence and the way he delivers everything he does with meaning.
All right, Rain has a fault. I have Rain, Melody, Vinny, Kristen, and Hannah. We'll see how many we can get through. Maybe we could stay over 5 minutes. We'll see if you guys can stay over, but we'll try to get it done. Rain, what's your follow-up question?
So my follow-up question is, do you guys have like a favorite mistake? So that's kind of like a little weird, but basically it's like, did you guys make a mistake in the past, but then now you look back, okay, I'm glad I made that mistake because I learned X, Y, and Z.
I don't know if I have a favorite mistake, but I have like favorite matches that were like the bane of my existence when they happened, and now I can like look back and laugh at them, and know where kind of it all went wrong. But like, as far as like favorite mistake, I don't really know.
That's a great question, and I probably do have one. But
was it breaking your neck?
Nah.
I was gonna mention that for Brody. Was it maybe doing some of the high flying stuff that injured you, just because you could do it?
Yeah. So I mean, that kind of like that was very much a double-edged sword, because it got me to the show, but it also tore both my ACLs. So, I wouldn't change it. If I could go back, I would still do all the same shit I did. But I've definitely pulled back on a lot of that. But I feel like it fits within character as well. Like, it's not like, oh my God, Brody stopped doing high flying. It's like, I can still do it, and I might still do it every once in a while, but it's not like a huge style shift.
Just so you guys can know, my man right here, Brody King, at 6'5", 300 pounds, he could springboard up to the top rope, take a back bump on the steel cable rope, and bounce back to his feet. Springboard back up. It's on video.
Is the base. Thank you.
Hey, I ain't never seen you take a back bump on the rope, my friend.
I said with me holding him up.
Oh, that's right.
I just thought of my favorite mistake, and I don't know if there's anything in specific, but that fatal 4-way PWG match, that was probably my favorite mistake. That match was garbage. That match was really bad, and it was my PWG debut, but it made me want to do better the next time.
Yep, that was a bad match.
Yeah.
Really? It was that bad? I know you guys talk
really
about
bad.
it. Really? Well.
I hide it in the vault. Don't ever.
To you guys, it was bad. I'm pretty sure people loved it. They were loving it. No.
No.
All right. I'm trying to put you guys over. Melody has a question. What's your question, Melody?
Well, kind of took it away. What would be like advice, like,
I can't understand. Maybe type it out.
to make a mistake
Type it out.
like moves or
All right. Melody, we actually can't hear you, so can you type it out?
Can you hear me now?
It's a little choppy. It's a little
Yeah, bad something.
Yeah, so if you could type that out, we'll have them answer that. Vinny has a question, and then we'll answer your question when you type it out, Melody. What's your question, Vinny, right now?
So this is kind of going back to, how when you're calling a match, if you're wrestling like a name or a vet, and it shouldn't be, this is how it's going to be. It should be kind of, back and forth. How would you go about when you are wrestling, quote unquote name or a vet, and they do tell you this is how it's going to go A to Z? Like, for example, the first time that I wrestled a name or a vet, he basically told me everything that was going to happen. He called my heat for me, all that fun stuff. So how would you go about of like trying to get your moves in if that, were to happen again, and for anybody that might have to run down to that in the future? And if that ever happened to you guys, when you guys were first getting the, the notoriety of your first, couple big shows and stuff.
Well, that wasn't a true vet. I don't know who it was, and you don't have to name them, but clearly that guy was not a good vet if that's how he came in with the match. And I'm saying this as someone who probably didn't do it enough. But since this is you, I encourage you to just speak up and say that this is a move you do, and this is the way I do it. And I think that it could help the match, if we do it this way. Another way is Kevin Condren taught us this, is like always have three alternative, like always have three choices or three options for something in case someone says no, or like is giving you a hard time, like if you know what I mean. But yeah, like speak up for yourself, and then if worst comes to worst, I mean, whatever you're given, just nail it. I mean, that's something that I would do, but I know Brody would probably I mean, Brody's more intimidating and imposing, so they would have to listen to him, but they not me. You're on mute, Brody.
I don't know why it's unmuted. All right. Who was the person, Benny?
It was Chris Masters.
That's what I was thinking.
He's fucking trash anyways.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't want to, and like, because I remember I came in with some ideas, and I said, I told him, like, hey, I have these ideas if you'd like to hear them. And he just basically said, well, I'm a nice guy, but just to let you know, if you did this to like a Bob Holly, he'd beat the shit out of you in the ring. So don't ever do it.
Okay, which is not true, because I wrestled Bob Holly, and he was one of the nicest fucking people in the world. And he said, "What's your finish?" And I said, "Do you mind taking a pile driver?" He said, "I don't think so, not tonight." And then I said, "Okay, how about a lariat?" He said, "Sounds great." So, okay, Chris Masters is let me bury him for a second. He is a terrible wrestler, and he's living off the back of some shitty WWE fame. You're definitely going to run into that with people like that don't really get it. They don't get wrestling. He's not trying to be a good wrestler. He's trying to be, he's just trying to make money at this point. So I would just take that match for what it is. Don't even think about it. Just do the fucking match and move on with your life. If he lets you do a move, then that's cool. If not, he's not a name. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I think I was more worried about like just like speaking up for myself in terms of maybe like getting heat with him, and then him, going off to like other guys who might be names and vets that he is friends with, and like, oh, this guy, doesn't listen, blah, blah, blah.
Vinny, do you want to work here one day?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't give a fuck about Chris Masters.
Yeah, also, Chris Masters isn't going to remember your name an hour after the show, so it doesn't matter if he likes you or not.
This is what we call shooters. We got a couple of shooters in here. They answer your question, Vinny?
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
So Melody asked about you guys. Have you ever had a storyline you guys struggled with as a heel or babyface?
No, I mean, I guess when I started at AAW, I had never really worked baby or heel that much, and they wanted me to be like a heel. And I think once you kind of like start that off, you have to be okay with people disliking you and booing you, and like, even if it's not even in gimmick, even if they just genuinely don't like you. But like, I had Jimmy Jacobs as my manager, and I was the champion of the company, and they booed me every fucking time. And it really makes it messes with your head, because you don't know if these people actually don't like you or if you're doing a good job, because like there's nothing to go off of. But then, when you move on from that company, and like when I got signed to Ring of Honor, and I had a lot of those people from AAW being like, we'll miss you, Brody. Like, and my last match there, I sold a shit ton of merch, and a lot of people, said like, we loved booing you or whatever. Then that you did your job well. But I would say being a true heel nowadays is very rare, because people want to be praised, and they want to be cheered, and they want to be told that they do a good job. And being a real heel, you're gonna piss people off, and you're gonna make people hate you, and it's a hard pill to swallow in a day where you want praise. MJF, I just saw somebody said, but MJF is a top quality heel. That is I think MJF is the best heel in the last, I don't know, 15 years. He absolutely does not care. But then even with him, I don't want to break his gimmick too much for some people, but he genuinely cares, and like he's a very insecure person sometimes. And I've had multiple conversations with Max and him being like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't know if I should keep doing it. And I was always like, dude, you have something here. People are gonna fucking love it. And now he's one of the top guys at one of the biggest promotions in the world. So
Thank you guys. Jake, did you answer that? Did you have something to add to that?
Have I had a storyline that I struggled with? I don't know if I've had a storyline, but I think I just struggled with being a face when I wasn't out of the closet, just like professionally. I think that once I came out and like became a heel, like a bitchy side of me came out, and it made wrestling a little bit easier.
That was always there.
Yeah, that was that resting bitch face that Brody was talking about.
So there was that. I guess I struggled, before I was kind of able to be myself.
So we're at 8 o'clock. I got about 2 more questions. Brody and Jake, you guys got about 5 more minutes to finish it up?
Yeah, Sal's got about 5 more minutes.
All right. Hannah has a follow-up question, and then Kristen has one. Last 2.
All right, for both of you guys. But like for cutting promos, do you have any tips? Because I know like I ramble a lot and I go off and I try to fit like a bunch of stuff in the 60 seconds. I do that and I can't like switch my tones as much as I should. Do you guys have any tips for that?
I would go ahead and say that both of us are probably not the people to look towards when it comes to cutting promos. It's probably our weakest suit. But watch the guys that are really good at it and see what they do. Try to see their pacing with things and how they deliver lines. I know it's all about levels, kind of going up and down. And you can use that Jake the Snake thing where he would whisper until he wanted to get the point across, and then his voice rose, and then he was like yelling, and then it kind of went back down to a whisper. But yeah, definitely, I'm not the person to ask for that.
Could you repeat your question? Sorry.
Cutting promos, because I ramble and I can't switch my tones. Do you have any advice for that?
Oh yeah. I'm actually doing a lot better at promos, and I cut a live promo on TV last week. Thank you very much, and it got a lot of praise.
I didn't watch it.
But what's helped me out, obviously, is we see an acting coach every week. But yeah, when I first started, when I got here, obviously I sucked at promos, and I would just put a lot of fluff, and I would just say things that don't matter, to get to the point. And so one thing that they've worked on with us is to literally just, well, now we're able to write. We can write our stuff out. Like it's a lot easier here. Like we don't need to improvise. They're not asking us to improvise on the spot. Like we get a script or whatever. So I've actually learned to like write out what I want to say and then take out what doesn't go, instead of saying, like it's just unnecessary words. Take out unnecessary words out of what you write. Write your stuff out and then say what you wrote out into the mirror. And just take out unnecessary words like 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 things like that, or let me tell you this. Well, just say it instead of saying let me tell you this. Instead of saying those words, or like you see, or like things like that, like these extra fluff words that you do because you're nervous. You're not doing it because you suck. You're doing it because you're nervous. So you don't take those nerve words out. Take those nervous words out, and you get to what you're trying to say. You don't have to. Don't like in the like don't say what you're gonna like. Don't say that you're gonna say what you're gonna say. If that makes sense. Like, just,
I would say definitely. What I do is I just speak from so what I know. I don't try to put on pro wrestler voice. If anything, I have my my deeper tone, which I guess is my pro wrestler voice, but it's not me being like, let me tell you something, brother, on October 27th. Like I could never cut a promo like that because it's just not real. And I think you just have to speak from what you know and what feels comfortable with you. And if you're having a problem with changing your tone, just start yelling because then you'll find something.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Kristen, last one, and then I can release my guys.
I guess it's somewhat appropriate. Basically, what would you recommend when it comes to preserving your body, especially at the higher levels that you guys are working at? Because I want to keep that bump card as long as possible.
So Kevin Condren once had a conniption fit because I told him that I don't believe in the bump card.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because I see guys like Joey and our trainer Robbie that were, 20 plus years deep into wrestling, still bumping around like nothing. I feel like it's all about repetition and not letting your body get too unused to it, which right now it's very difficult, especially where I get to wrestle maybe once a month. I know Jake gets to wrestle a lot more than me, but after every match, it's, I definitely feel it a lot. And I guess just pick your moments. I try to think about, like, if there's something that's super high risk, maybe is it really worth it? But, like, then I'm also like, I called my match for Final Battle, and I'm like, probably going to take a chair shot to the head, and it's not probably smart, but it's good for the match. So I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about preservation because I believe in preserving the art of professional wrestling more than my body, I guess.
I'm going to cheer for that one. Not too many people, right? Hey, I will sacrifice my well-being to protect the business. Yes. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm 26 years in. I don't wrestle as much as a lot of people. I never did in my career. I don't have any problems, knock on wood, with bumping or even taking big bumps. I will feel it. So then I just change it up. There's times that I would have to wrestle and I just wouldn't take a back bump. I would take a stunner. I would take a stun gun on the ropes. I would just take everything that I could do and not show them what I couldn't do. That only happened once when my back was a little bit hurt, but it's never been that big of a problem. Kenny, you have a bump card? How do you preserve yourself?
I forcefully have a bump card. The only thing I dislike about being in the quote unquote finishing class here is that we're like Terry wants us to not bump, and I hate it because I need to be in the ring and I need to do the thing. And I tell them all the other guys in my class are like 30 and older. And I'm like, I'm only 26. Like, you guys can bump me around if you want. Like, I don't care.
He wants to bump.
I want to bump, and Terry's like, no, don't do that. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, get your bump card in, right? So, yeah, you love it. So, hey guys, I really appreciate Jake and Brody and being gracious with your time, and your knowledge is so important. Not everybody is so willing to give their knowledge away or give their knowledge and let them in on their secrets. So, I really appreciate that, guys. I appreciate you guys coming in. I appreciate the love and support that you guys have always had and do have for Santino Brothers Wrestling, because Santino Brothers isn't me. It's all of us. It takes all of us, and all of us make it what it is today. And you guys definitely are the front runners. And I told the last class, and I'll tell this one, really carrying the flag of Santino Brothers, and really putting the name of Santino Brothers on the map in wrestling. And I appreciate that. And I'm sure the entire alumni appreciates that also. So,
well,
thank you,
wouldn't be
guys.
there if we didn't love you too.
Hey, brother, I love you guys. Yeah, so I was saying, like, you guys are my kids. I don't have kids. I got cats. So yeah, you guys are my kids. But just like every class, we ended. I think you guys were staying over 10 minutes. We ended with Santino's on 3. We put our hands to the screens. Santino's on 3. 1, 2, 3. Santino's! All right, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good weekend. Be safe. Study your promos. and study the notes. I already put the notes in the field for everybody to add to it. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys. Bye.
See you guys on Monday.
Monday, last class.
Woo! I'm gonna cry.
Yes, Monday. All right. Hey, it
Oh,
would have
boy.
been this one, but we had Thanksgiving, so
Right.
Oh.
right. So thank God it's not this one.
Yeah.
All right,
We
guys.
need a bonus.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
See you
Appreciate
on
ya.
Monday.
Bye.
Bye.